construction road that he can continue to use.
But where he's building, the flats and stuff, already approved, won't block anything, right? Won't block any of the
No,
30.
we've already approved the subdivision.
Right.
It's been there.
Thanks, Andy. You know, when I was on the city council, Bill Weiner was a regular attendee,
Yeah.
and as well as a lady named Ann Stratton. You ever heard of her?
I've heard the name, I don't know her.
And
Miss Bessie,
she'd look like
would
a
you
pauper.
please bring me some
Really?
chocolate when you come
How
back?
many meetings she left? She
I don't
left
know
about
if
10
you do
million
it.
to the.
And what was
Just
her
a
name?
meeting. I think Ann Stratton.
Supposed to add 10 million.
Ann Stratton. Yeah, she left.
Yeah.
Because I think she left a lot of money to the community foundation or
That's
something.
how we doing right there. We're gonna talk about the water.
Look at her.
Millions of dollars.
I'm sorry.
We're not there yet.
Everywhere.
We're not there yet.
We're gonna talk about water.
We got 2 more preliminary cases. You don't.
Everywhere.
No.
He has a twin brother. I didn't know this. My son told me.
P612.
Yeah,
You got
he has
them
a
all.
twin
How
brother.
old is he?
My son is 32.
Okay.
So
Yeah, we're fixing
He
to
looks
do
about 21.
P6, 12,
they're about
33,
class.
and Willis Mountain's down here. Edge Street.
He'll be running for something
Oh,
someday.
yeah.
That's a different
That's
deal.
what we just finished. We just finished 31, 32.
I've gotten some
No.
notifications.
We're done with 31.
That's a different,
Can't go read it because I'm tired of that.
you will. No, I got the coffee. It's
Bill Weiner.
She's so sweet, okay, baby.
Real wealthy family.
No. This
The bail between them.
cookie will be
Right.
there.
He lives in bail.
Is he part of the attorney? Wise man?
But he's a relative. Okay. That's what we are. Okay. Yeah.
We were having a public
I
hearing.
will take care of that. What? Oh, yeah. Doctor?
Stood up, and of course, the chairman said, we're limiting everybody to 3 minutes. I said, well, I can't say what I want to say in 3 minutes. And he just walked off. And that's it.
Yeah.
Leave this thing
Yeah.
until they get through with it.
That's what we were
That's
saying.
what originally,
We'd have to modify what we said
Keep
though,
using your temporary access,
y'all
and you
can
can
just
have,
set your own,
right?
get building permits and come in and out real quick.
and yeah, what you
And
can do.
the housing wouldn't block anything.
That sidesteps the whole thing.
And basically,
Now,
go.
Well,
we
the
then
before-
need to, on y'all's motion, initiate a removal of that step.
See, the question I had when you said that, I
I
wrote
just gotta
down,
make a motion to remove the step.
can Larkin build with his,
And I have
Oh, sweet one.
see, okay, you want this?
Just leave it right there.
I had that question down, can Larkin build houses with his current temporary?
He could use that.
In the interest of those persons who are here whose cases happen to be further down the list, we'll resume the hearings at this particular time. I believe we have case number P612,
Knew they would.
and we have someone here. Yes, sir.
This is historic
No, sir. We haven't got to that
subdivision?
yet.
Yeah.
This is application to amend appropriate sections of city and parish zoning ordinances related to water issues in subdivisions
Mr. Chairman,
outside.
this is the subdivision ordinance. Sonny, are you going to speak to that?
I'm gonna speak to that.
Good.
He raised his hand.
Sonny can speak on anything.
I just thought there might be some questions on this one. Let her
Oh,
finish.
Sonny, you're still 2 cases away.
Two cases of yeah, okay.
Right. I didn't think you were going to speak to that. Mr. Chairman, if you may, Stephen, do you want to make some remarks about the subdivision ordinance? This is the one dealing with the concerns about subsurface water and the lack thereof in the Caddo Parish. So, Stephen, comments, if you will?
Yeah, I think the first comment I'd like to make is that staff is not recommending that the board take any action on this case today. We would like this to be beginning of a public dialogue in discussion of this proposed ordinance. What we would like to, we did ask by the parish. Mr. Ken Ward was here earlier. He had another engagement, had to leave. He did want me to make some comments for the record on his behalf. He's a project manager for the Public Works Department for the Caddo Parish. And one of the things, as we begin to look at the ordinance, he under the drainage section of the recommendations, he questioned whether we should put zero impact instead of no negative impact. He also, under item 3, under environmental considerations, he wanted us to consider reducing the 25-acre exemption size, and he also wanted to look at considering reducing the minimum connected user of 2,500. He also thought it would be a good idea for the board to consider exempting any community system whose source is surface water, and that is to say that there's no subsurface water being used. It would be, like, for instance, a large lake or reservoir. So those were his comments. He wanted to be sure that you were aware of from the staff of the Public Works Department of the Caddo.
All right. Any questions, comments, Mr. Kirkland?
Chairman, we would anticipate from the staff perspective that during the next 30 days, we would be able to meet with a number of industry representatives, as well as continue some fine-tuning on this ordinance. Some of the numbers in it are a little too restrictive, and we want to get some better information from Dr. Gary Hansen primarily, but there are some others that are going to give us input as well. So we would appreciate that you defer at least to the June hearing, and we'll give you a better report at that time.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Jean. Any other comments? Very good. Yes, sir. Any public comments relative to this discussion? It appears that this probably will be deferred until further study is done relative to making sure the ordinances are appropriate, and we've had some buy-in basically from the community,
right,
and or various kinds of engineers. All right, then. Well, thank you very much. Then we'll go to case number C-3312, as it deals with the Historic Preservation Commission. Ms. Sanders?
Yes, sir. I'd like to defer presentation of the application to the Historic Preservation Study Committee. Here is Councilman Jeff Everson to speak to it. They would be able to provide better history of the project and description of what's being proposed.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Prior to Councilman Everson's comments, I think it's certainly in order to say, and I hope not prematurely, that the councilman has gotten further in the direction of getting an approved historic preservation ordinance than anyone preceding him. And the MPC has tried at least 2, if not 3 occasions over the last 20 years, and they all got shot down by opposition. So Councilman Everson has really done an excellent job, and to be commended for his steadfast leadership in this effort. So, Councilman, I want to say thank you on behalf of staff and
thank you,
for the board as well.
Well, obviously, youth has its advantages then.
Not that it's not tiring me out now, but I appreciate y'all having me here today. My name is Jeff Everson. My address is 1053 Boulevard Street. That's in Shreveport, 71104. And today we're here to share with you and make sure that you've had a chance to see and accept any comments from on behalf of citizens about the Historic Preservation Committee report. The committee report is a report that is required by state law in order to have the information out there at the outset of the implementation of a historic preservation policy, so that those who would be affected by that policy will be aware of what is covered by the initial implementation, and also that the general public would have a good feel for what recommendations have been made and what type of areas will be covered by a historic preservation policy. So there has been a number of public hearings that have been held over the past few years. These were done after the initial round of suggestions were made for the implementation of a policy. The suggestions were made by the Historic Preservation Study Committee, a group that was appointed in 2009 by Mayor Glover and has been working together as a committee, many of whose members are here today. But they've been working together since 2009 to draft what would be a recommended policy. Once they developed that policy, we took it out to a public hearing, went back, made some revisions, took it out to another public hearing, went back, made some additional revisions, and then developed the committee and put it on file with the Master Plan Office, I'm sorry, with the Metropolitan Planning Commission. And it is now available on the front page of the Metropolitan Planning Commission's website. So for anybody who hasn't had a chance to review it, or anybody in the public, or anyone who may be listening today that would like a chance to review it, the report is available there. It does take a minute to download. It's 150 pages, so we did our homework. but it is available there for to be read, and there is still, the public comment period is open until we have a public hearing on it at the City Council meeting on May 8th. So we're still open to comments and suggestions, certainly until then, and look forward to hearing those. Those that we've received up to this point have been very helpful. Charles is right in mentioning that the ability of a local government to pass an ordinance like this has been in place about since the time I was born, and it hasn't it hasn't come to fruition in Shreveport yet, and that's not any one particular person's fault, but it is a relatively complicated set of policies to get in place. And so I am very thankful to the Historic Preservation Committee and to the public in general for their comments. Even those who came out to oppose it at some of the early public hearings were able to criticize things that were actually very good criticisms, and the committee was able to go back and make those adjustments to make sure that those factors that they were concerned about are considered in the current policy. Another thing that I want to make sure and point out to everybody is what is included in this Historic Preservation Committee report. It includes inventories of all of the properties that would be considered. Those are individual properties and then properties that fall within historic districts. Those districts each have their own description of why the area has been considered historic, when it was designated as a historic area, and individual inventories within those districts of properties, as well as maps defining those districts. As well as, in addition to those, in the report are the recommendations from the Shreveport-Bossier, the Shreveport-Caddo Master Plan. And those are included to show that this is consistent with our master plan, and that this policy going forward would allow us to achieve some goals and is in spirit with the master plan. One of the important aspects that would allow us to move forward in accomplishing is the designation of a certified local government status. A certified local government status is one in which your local policies are in alignment with state and federal policies concerning historic preservation. And when you are awarded that status, you then become eligible for a number of funding opportunities and programs and assistance that is currently not available to our community. So that's one very important reason that we're pushing forward with this, is to make sure that we can bring renewed life to the older parts of our city. And I can't help but give a little pitch for some of our more mature neighborhoods. And some of those mature neighborhoods, we've already got our roads built, so we don't have to have the type of debates that we're having earlier. So, but certainly there are a number of wonderful things about older communities, and this will help us to sort of lift those communities up and have additional resources to help preserve the character and history and story of our community. And so we appreciate your consideration of it.
All right, Councilman, are there any questions for this gentleman? I've got one. The time that elapsed between the first document that was designed and the 100-plus page document, what was the driving factor that caused it to rise to that level?
The increase in the sort of amount of the volume of information that was there. The reason was that we wanted to be very explicit with what properties were to be included. If somebody was only curious to find out what properties were covered by the general ordinance, they could look on, there's a spreadsheet at the very front of the report that has the boundaries of those districts. But because some of those boundaries sort of weave and bend around in neighborhoods, we wanted to include maps and then explicit lists. So that's what adds to a lot of the volume of the report. That's what adds a length to it, is that we went ahead and put every address of properties that are included within those districts. But if you just sort of wanted to get a general idea of where those districts are, those boundaries are listed on a spreadsheet that's in the first 3 or 4 pages of it. So,
From your aspect, Ms. Sanders, legally, how does this fit today with what we started out with?
The report and the proposed ordinance to establish the Historic Preservation Commission are consistent with the state law's requirements for establishing local districts as well as establishing the Historic Preservation Commission. So the MPC staff is comfortable with this product, and we are recommending that the report be forwarded to the City Council with a recommendation for acceptance.
all right, thank you.
Any questions for Mr. Everson? Since he stayed this long, I'm sure he does.
I know. Well, we appreciate being here, and any time spent with you guys is good time. So thank you very much.
Gary Joyner, 1039 Blanchard Place in Shreveport. I'm the chairman of the study committee. And I want you to know that this has been a long 3-year process. Jeff has been absolutely terrific, as has the other members of the study committee and the staff. The MPC's been wonderful to us. 176 pages.
Miss Vivian wouldn't let me download it. I just want you to know.
Tell her I'll write you a note and she can do it.
Thank you very much.
It is voluminous, but it's a much needed first step. We are the largest metropolitan area in the entire state that does not have one. There are small towns that have these ordinances. We need to throw ourselves into the 21st century. One aside, sometimes history repeats itself. You know, history does matter. Had to do that. I was doing some research about 3 weeks ago, and I was looking at some old Shreveport Times, 1960, almost exactly this time of year. And the Times spent a week in detailing the destruction of City Hall. Not so that a new City Hall could be built on the site, but to record how history goes away, and they even had shots of the wrecking balls and all that. And the Times reported that, oh, by the way, our history has gone away again, and for what? An ellipsis, another parking lot. We've got to stop this. We're going to lose our soul as a preservationist community. There will be nothing else to preserve, but we will have a fine series of parking lots. We owe it to ourselves, we owe it to our kids and our grandkids and those who come after them. So thank you very much for the opportunity, and I've thoroughly enjoyed being on this study committee.
Thank you for your service, sir. Anyone else?
Good afternoon, everyone. Liz Swain, Director of the Downtown Development Authority, Downtown Shreveport Development Corporation, 401 Edwards Street, Shreveport 71101. I'm not going to speak for very long, but I do want to tell you that both of my organizations are fully supportive of the Historic Preservation Commission and the Historic Preservation Ordinance. I also live in Historic Highland, the Fairfield Historic District, completely supportive of it. It helps us in terms of developing our downtown. It helps us with property values downtown. It helps us preserve, as Mr. Joyner said, our heart and our soul and our history in downtown. I only wonder what would have happened and how differently we would look downtown had we instituted a historic preservation ordinance back in the 1970s when we first started talking about it. I guarantee you that our downtown will look vastly different than it does today, and I would say much better in many ways than it does today. Again, we are very supportive. Thank you for your consideration of the Historic Preservation Commission and the upcoming Historic Preservation Ordinance.
I have a question, Dr. Huff.
Miss Liz, we have a question.
I'm so sorry.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
And in reading the forum and all these different places, and I think the last issue of the forum had a whole area dedicated to the fact that so many of the older downtown buildings have now become residential places. My problem with that is, living in larger cities, you had some buildings dedicated to residential areas because the people worked downtown. But downtown doesn't have many places for them to work. So I'm wondering if we keep developing the business of putting residential areas in our old buildings, what else will be downtown? Because right now it's just residential this, residential, and then this new building they opened over there on McNeil, $130,000 condominiums.
Are you going to buy one?
Huh?
Would you buy one?
No, I wouldn't.
Oh.
And I tell you why. There's not enough money downtown or anywhere else for a person to want to buy $130 condominium or $200,000 condominium in a building with somebody. I know y'all have all this foresight and you figure you're right, but when you look downtown, there's nothing down there but a Hallmark and 2 or 3 hot dog places, and at 12 o'clock, the lady with the free food. And I just wonder what you're gonna bring downtown to accommodate those people who are moving downtown and buying those condominiums.
Well, it's an interesting question that you have. We have from 12 to 14,000 people who work downtown every day of the week. Monday through Friday, 12 to 14,000 people drive into downtown to work at Government Plaza, to work at the banks, to work at the courts. We are the center of finance in the region. We are the center of government in the region. We are the center of courts in the region. A tremendous number of people come downtown and work at those high-rise buildings every day, and many of them would love to live closer to where they work. Surprisingly, a couple of years ago we did a downtown housing tour, and we had about 400 people show up, everything from 20-somethings to people who were retired and living south of town in the big fine homes who didn't want to do lawn work anymore, who wanted to live more simply and closer to downtown, and we had nothing to offer them in terms of living accommodations. We have fewer than 1,000 places to live in all of downtown, and we stay at 100% occupancy in the Lee Hardware apartments, the United Jewelers apartments. Those are our 2 apartment buildings, and they are full constantly. We have one place that has 6 apartments. It stays full. We have a couple of condominium projects. The one at the old Crystal Oil building, the Red River Bank building, that is now 100% occupied. We've got the new complex that she's talking about, the Novena, across from the Strand Theater, and that is not complete yet. They're trying to sell them pre-construction, and they are $130,000, but that price is based on the price that was gotten from the condominiums at the Crystal Oil building. So people were paying upwards of $200,000 to live in those condominiums at the old Crystal Oil building. It's surprising there's that kind of money out there, but there is, and people will pay it to live in a nice historic building and live close to downtown. So Ms. Wilson, our goal and our plans and everything that we're striving for is to make sure that there's enough places for people to work, for people to live, and for people to have fun, and to have those things that you need if you're going to live and work downtown. The grocery store, the drugstore, the gas station, all of those types of things that you want in your neighborhood, even if your neighborhood is downtown.
And those last 3 things you named aren't down there.
They're not, but it is our goal to get them, and we are working toward that every single day. And if there's anything that you can think of that we're not doing, please let me know. I'll turn over every rock that I can to get those things down.
I just told you what I think about it.
Well, thank you so
very
much.
Yes, sir.
Ms. Swain,
Yes.
Mr. Joyner brought up a spot. It was on TV last night that downtown
is 600 to 1,200 parking spaces short.
Yes.
And how's that going to fit in? I know preservation's one, parking lot's another. How's that going to fit into the grand scheme?
Both have to work in conjunction with each other. We have a number of vacant, very important historic buildings. The Slattery Building, the Johnson Building, the Rubenstein's Building, the Selber Building. The Lane Building is underutilized. It's about 30% occupancy now. With the exception of the Lane Building, now the Slattery Building has a little parking garage, but all those other buildings, Johnson, Slattery, Lane, Rubenstein's, have almost no parking. There is no developer in his or her right mind who is going to come into downtown Shreveport, spend $10 to $20 million rehabbing a historic building for whatever, for office, for retail, for residential, if they do not have the parking necessary for their tenants or their residents. The DDA undertook a parking study, and I'd love at some point to come present it to you. I think you'd find it very interesting. And we do find that in the two areas of downtown that we studied, we have a serious deficit currently in parking, and we'll have a bigger deficit in the next 3 to 5 years. In order for us to save these historic buildings, in order to make them viable for developers to want to put money into those historic buildings, there has got to be parking available. We're working with the city very closely on identifying developers, identifying funding streams to build multi-level parking garages, not to knock down historic buildings, and to build surface lots. Those are the most inefficient types of parking you can build. We need to take space we already have, space that is currently available, and build up, not knock things down and build parking. It's crazy to knock down historic buildings and build parking. You're taking away the need for your parking when you continue to knock down buildings. So we are working very hard, and that is a primary concern of downtown.
Thank you, Ms. Swain.
Well, thanks for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
All right. Any other comments relative to historical preservation?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Tom Arsenault, 536 Jordan Street, 71101. I'm here in my capacity as Vice President and Zoning and Property Standards Chairman of the Highland Restoration Association. I'm here at the podium as a volunteer and a community activist. And I wanted to let you know that HRA is fully in support of both the report and the ordinance.
Thank you very much. Good. Anyone else to speak in favor of this case?
My name's Barbara Hartwell. I live at 1105 Dalzell Street, Shreveport, 71104. And I'm representing the Fairfield Historic District Association. And we are very much in favor of this passage of this ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Are there other persons present in favor of this ordinance? Are there other persons present? Why don't you stand if you feel like you don't want to say anything, but let us do a head count. Come on, stand up, my friends. All right. Oh, Mr. Stevens. Well, I tell you what, look like some recruiting's been going on out there.
That's pretty good.
Good, even got Arkansas.
Got him.
We good, gentlemen? Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I felt like there was some more. I could see some smiles out there that I recognized. All right, just for the sake of the record, are there any persons present who are in opposition to the approval of this ordinance? Are there any persons present in opposition? Then we will forego the opportunity for a rebuttal, Mr. Jefferson. Thank you all very much. If any of you care to exit at this time, we'll allow you to. Otherwise, we'd invite you to stay for the rest of the agenda that we have, which I assure you is quite full.
Yes. I'm going to roll this thing.
Oh, I'm good now. We're playing the whole rock and roll. All right. All right, then we're down to case number CA 3-12, Willis Knighton Health Systems. That's your turn. That's you. Yes, sir.
I'm Sonny Moss here representing Willis Knighton Health System, 2600 Greenwood Road, Shreveport, Louisiana, 71103. Our request is to close one block of Edgar Street, which is bounded by Portland Avenue and Albert L. Bicknell Drive. I'm sure hopefully you're familiar with the location. We have two facilities at front on Kings Highway. One is our cancer center and one is our extended care center. The block of Edgar Street that runs behind our cancer center has already been closed quite a few years ago. It ran into Hearn Avenue. This block of Edgar Street is directly behind our extended care facility, which fronts on Kings Highway. The purpose of the closure of this street is to develop and expand our parking in that area. You may or may not know we're in the process of a very large project with our cancer center. Over the next year and a half to 2 years, you will see our development of a proton beam therapy facility there at the campus, which just for informational purposes, this will be about a $40 million project between the building construction and the equipment, the proton beam that we placed in there. This proton beam therapy is one of the cutting-edge therapies in cancer treatment. In fact, to my knowledge, there are 9 proton beam therapy centers in the country, and when this one is completed, the technology that will be put into it will be the next generation, and it will be the only technology at that time in the United States. So it is a very, very big project for us. And in closing this street, we will be able to change our traffic flow a little bit and increase our parking. This facility behind, next to Edgar Street on the north side of Edgar, we already have parking. Our intention is to integrate the portion of this street that will be closed into additional parking. And as far as traffic flow for neighbors or anyone around there, we own the property completely around this area. But Portland Avenue, where it comes into Kings Highway, is where a traffic light is that is located there for egress and access, and we feel like will not be detrimental to any of the neighbors that still live around. There are probably 6 or 7 neighbors that are in that area between Kings Highway and Greenwood Road.
Any questions for this gentleman, Mr. Kirkland?
Yeah. Sonny, not really directly related to your request, but really more related to the impact, positive impact that Willis Knighton has in our region. About how much, what's the sphere of influence, if you will, from Shreveport? Is it 75 to 100 miles that we tend to draw people because of what y'all do?
Conservatively, I think we feel 100 miles for our basic health care. Facilities like this proton beam therapy will be a regional impact on our area. You would have to go to St. Louis, possibly Houston, to have opportunity to access this type of therapy. So I think you'll continue to see our influence on this area become more of a regional influence, and hopefully a regional draw for not only our services, but for people that will be visiting and taking advantages of other business opportunities here in town.
Well, it's certainly wonderful, all the services that Willis Knighton has chosen to provide to this region. And as I've gotten older, I appreciate them even more.
We appreciate that. We're from here and we plan on staying here.
Anyone else have questions for this gentleman? Thank you very much, sir. Is there anyone else who care to speak on in favor of this particular case, CA 312?
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, my name is William Talton. I'm with the City Engineer's Office. I'd like to take this opportunity to introduce to you Ms. Crystal Franklin. She will be addressing the board on this matter and other matters in the future. And just wanted to let you know that when you see a new face up here, that she is also with City Engineer's Office, and she's the one that's going to be talking to you and trying to answer your questions.
Good afternoon. As Mr. Moss stated, the City of Shreveport has received an application from Willis Knighton to close the portion of Edgar Street between Albert Bicknell and Portland Avenue. The portion between Albert Bicknell and Hearn has already been closed. And like you said, this is just another step in them expanding their medical campus. There are utilities located in the area. We will retain a servitude until those utilities are relocated.
Young lady,
Yes, sir.
you don't seem like you're nervous at all.
I used to be a teacher. I'm used to speaking in front of kids, not adults. So.
Well, this should be a piece of cake for you. I did hear one comment. But she didn't give her name and address, so go ahead and do that for the
I'm
record.
sorry. I'm Crystal Franklin. I represent the property management section of the City of Shreveport City Engineer's Office.
And the address for that office?
2178 Burgundy Ridge Loop, Shreveport, 71118.
Excellent. Any questions for this young lady since she's not nervous?
No.
Now, this group can make you nervous, I promise. Thank you very much. Thank you. Anyone else in favor of this request? Willis Knighton. Well, all right. Are there persons present in opposition to this request? Seeing no hands or no one headed this way, we'll move on to the next case, which is case SP 19-12, Steve Nichols.
I'm Steve Nichols, 2870 Jolly Napier Road, Shreveport, Louisiana, 71119. And I'm proposing to do a subdivision there called Solomon Hills. This is my first time doing that, so if you need to ask any questions, buddy.
Just go right ahead and tell us your story.
It's a site-built homes. Will not be any mobile homes. We did get approved by city council for the town to city water. One of the concerns I think some of the citizens had was tying into some existing streets. We elected not to tie on to any city streets. I mean, any of the streets that are there now, they would be substandard to what we're building anyway, and we didn't want to impose the extra traffic on those streets. And there will be no, of course, no well drilling because we have the city water. And I really can't think of anything to add.
Well, all right, you stand there long enough, I'm sure something will come up.
Oh,
yeah. Mr. Kirkley.
Mr. Nichols, I want to thank you for your cooperation in working with Mr. Jean. We know you had some issues that you worked out, and your attitude of working with us is very much appreciated.
Thank you.
So thank you.
All right.
Yes, ma'am.
I see that you're developing on 220 acres of land. You're only building 90 residential.
That's correct. That's correct. We really wanted to keep it. I live in the area also, and my pastor, a good friend of mine, is going to buy 73 of the acres himself.
Okay.
And so we're actually keeping that. I'm going to keep 40-something acres of it for myself. And so we're only going to develop the acres shown. That's all we want to do. We don't have any desire to develop the rest of it. I really felt like that area, while we love it, I live there, we love that area. I do feel like it's going to be a hard place to draw a lot of people with the school zones, and everybody's going south, it sounds like to me. And I've seen other developments developed around there that have moved very slowly. So I was, concerned about making the investment too large anyway, because I really don't have any indications on how well this will go. But we're going to give everything we can to make the best of the best. This is also what I do for a living with my company that I own, and so we decided to keep it at that low percentage of lots.
So the lot size is going to be like what?
1 acre.
1 acre.
Or larger. Yeah, there won't be anything any smaller than 1 acre.
That's what I needed. Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Nichols? Mr. Nichols, just so as you'll know, that's considered West Shreveport, sort of. And the word is that's the last frontier, so.
It is.
That comment about moving in a, just brace yourself.
Yeah, well, we're hoping, and you know what, I've been hearing some stuff to indicate that, but there's still rumors of things, so, but it hasn't been what's happened. And, you know, we love it out there, and we hope that that is the case. But I feel very confident in this piece of property. It's what I call a diamond in the rough. I feel very fortunate to own it. One way or the other, I'm going to feel fortunate to own it, but I appreciate, this is new to me, and I appreciate the city working with me and helping me through the steps of this process. I appreciate that, and wish y'all a blessing on it.
Well, all right. Any other questions for Mr. Nichols? Thank you very much, sir. Are there other persons present in favor of this application? Is there anyone else in favor of this application? Are there persons present in opposition to this application? Please come forward if you're in opposition. If you'll come up and state your name and address, and we'll be glad to listen to your question. Sir, if you'll hold up just a second. Don't leave.
I'm not in opposition.
Okay.
I hope the man does well. I'm Frank Van Alstyne. I live at 7119 South Lake Shore Drive, Shreveport, Louisiana, 71119. My question is, where is the water coming from and how is it going to get there? That's the only question I got.
All right, sir. I believe I heard the comment made that it would be city water. It's already, city water is already available in that area.
That's outside the city, though.
Mr. Jean's got the answer.
Mr. Jean?
Just recently, the developer went to the city council and obtained permission to connect to the city. So there is a water line, I understand, about 1,000 yards away. Am I about right?
Stops there at Barron's Landing area.
Yeah, and then he is going to extend that to his development. So the water will be city water.
Going down the north side of Lake Shore or the south side?
Well, there'll be a chance for a rebuttal, and I know his engineer is here. They can answer the detailed information on that. I do know that it's going to be extended.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
David Foster, 7234 Laguna Lane, 71119. And basically, I don't know if I'm in opposition, but I have questions like, he just answered the water deal because we're all on wells. This is an older, Laguna Lane's an older neighborhood, maybe 14 houses, been there since early 60s. And I was curious to know, are they going to open up Laguna Lane into that neighborhood? I mean, you know, I'm kind of against that if they're talking about taking our street and running it into his subdivision.
I'm sure they're making notes. When he comes back for a rebuttal, we'll get an answer for that.
Oh, okay.
Right here.
His master plan does not show that he's gonna access into your road. It's gonna stay a dead end.
Because it's an elderly, I mean, most of the people are, there may be a few in their 40s, one in their 30s, but the rest of them are 60 and above, 60, 70 and all. And like I say, there's only like 14 houses, and I've enjoyed living there, and I'd hate to see my way of living disappear, you know, the quiet and everything. And I guess the last thing that he said it was going to be site-built houses. I mean, it's not going to be mobile homes and stuff like that.
He said that. He said no.
He said
no.
That's correct.
He said it wouldn't be any
Well,
more.
basically, you know, those were the questions I had, and of course, I like that whole area is woods and all, and I don't know what's going to happen with all the animals that live there, and we even have like an American eagle that lives in those woods, you know, that flies in that area. So I was kind of concerned, you know, they're tearing the trees down left and right, so I was kind of concerned about, well, you know, how's that going to affect the, you know, that eagle that lives out in those woods. So that's one of the, you know, that is it.
Thank you very much, sir. Anyone else in opposition to this request? All right, sir, do you care to make any comments in the form of a rebuttal?
I'd like the citizens to know that we have a right-of-way that is dedicated to that property off Laguna. We chose not to use it to be sensitive to the locals there. I'm a common sense kind of guy. I didn't have to ask anybody. I would know automatically I wouldn't want anybody on my street if I were there. And I didn't have to ask anybody. We chose to do that. It would have been at our own investment. We done that for them. We knew that I live in the area. I have a water well. I was very concerned about the wells myself. I knew without asking that would be a problem. So that's why we came before the council with the request for city water. It's a long distance from us to bring that city water. It is an expense, but it will also give these people that live in that area opportunity to tie to that line. So it's a improvement that, as a local person that lives there and loves that area, I'm trying to be without begging for it, I'm trying to be as good as I can. As far as the eagle's concerned, I've done an environmental study. There is no eagle on that property. There is one off the property, a nest, but it is off our property. It has been thoroughly gone through with a fine-tooth comb, and we know the whole history of the property. It has a very interesting history. We did all that, but we found nothing that would keep us from moving forward. If I didn't move forward with this subdivision, then I would, the only thing that I could do to come out of my investment would be to log it. Either way, the timber is going to come down. Right now, it's only coming down partially because I intend to have all the lots remain as wooded as possible. That's why we're keeping them 1 acre lots also. We could have went to the rezoning and got it rezoned for smaller lots, being as we're going to get city water, and then we would have had to include. So there's a lot of thought process that did go into this. We want to keep it wooded as we can, and that's why we stayed with the 1 acre lots. Now, did I answer all those questions with that?
Thank you, did. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We're ready for case SP 21-12, Greg and Jennifer Burke.
Yes, I do.
Good afternoon, gentlemen, ladies. My name is John R. Bowman, Jr. I'm here to represent the Burke's interest in the LB Farms LLC property. He is just trying to make a one-lot subdivision for mainly mortgage purposes out of the common area of the LB Farms LLC. I don't think you have one that actually shows that. Yeah, that's it. This is the one lot he's separating for mortgage purposes. The individual septic system, and there's already well existing on the property.
Would you be so kind as to give us an address for our records, please?
Oh, John R. Bowman and Associates, 3833 Southern Avenue, Shreveport, 71106.
Do we have any questions? Yes, sir.
Mr. Bowman, that 26 acres, they're the same owner?
There's two owners. Greg F. Burke and Ross H. Dyes.
Okay. The other, the other question on the utilities, you mentioned water and septic. As far as gas and electric is already back to that home site, that's a pretty good distance from the road.
I'll have to ask Mr. Burke about that. It's already. Yeah. He's waiting on a permit to get the utilities back there. There's access on the old road.
Any more questions for Mr. Bowman? All right, sir. Is there anyone else present who would like to speak in favor of this request? Anyone else speak in favor of this request? Are there persons present who would like to speak against this request? Anyone present who would not like to see this request approved? All right, thank you very much. We'll move to case number SP 22-12, Danny and Mary Bernard.
Afternoon. I'm Ricky Wood with Polaris Services, 3602 North Market, Shreveport, Louisiana, 71107. Here representing the owner's request for a single residence lot by the subdivision case. Be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for this gentleman? And tell us again, sir, what they plan on doing. You appreciate it?
The Bernards have right at 15 acres, and they're planning on building a new home. Their home had been in planning stages for many years and just put off and put off. Now they're going to build a new single-family home site built on this 2.3 acres, and they had to have it cut out to receive the proper blessing of the MPC and follow the ordinances and codes to get their new permits.
All right, sir. Any questions from the board? Thank you very much, sir. Anyone here to speak against this request? Anyone here in opposition to this request? Hearing none, we'll go to case number SC 23-12. That's going to be Daniel Delaney.
John R. Bowman Jr., 3833 Southern Avenue, Shreveport, 71106. Mr. Delaney is just separating this one lot out of the original Lot A of the Free State Park Shopping Center. Yes. It's just separating it out for future development.
Any questions for Mr. Bowman? All right, sir. Anyone else here to speak in favor of case number SC 23-12? Anyone else to speak in favor? Are there persons present who want to speak in opposition to case number SC 23-12? Anyone in opposition? Seeing none, we'll go to the next case. Case number SP 24-12, Clifford Bickham.
Jump the gun, I'm the next one.
Okay.
Apologize.
No problem. Anyone here to speak in favor for Clifford Bickham, case number SP 24-12, Stephen Leroy, south side of Pine Hills Road, approximately 700 feet west of Glen Road, Cherrybell subdivision.
Chair, I do not see them present in the building. I'll be glad to answer any questions that the board may have concerning this.
Do we have any questions relative to this from the board?
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Yes, sir.
Stephen, I know you've been working with this individual. I think staff's recommendation, Mr. Chairman, will be that if an applicant or representative is not here, that you take no action or defer it. Stephen, would you agree with that, or?
Well, quite frankly, I don't have any issues with this from a staff perspective, Mr. Kirkland. This was one of those cases where when this property was purchased, they were actually exempt from subdivision, and they delayed building their home, and now they're just wanting to get legal. So it's really, of course, y'all's call how you want to proceed from here.
All right. No problem. Are there persons present in opposition to the board approving this request? Anyone present in opposition to case number SP 24-12? If not, then we'll proceed to the next case, which will be case number 25-12, Jocelyn K. Marr.
My name is Ghislaine Sond, and my address is 3324 Uri Drive, Shreveport, Louisiana, 71105. And I'm here to appeal to you to add preschool to the list of approved uses for this building located right there.
All right, do we have any questions for this applicant?
Yes, I do. Will
Yes,
you
ma'am. Ms. Smith?
explain a little more about the preschool?
It's going to be a small, the building itself is quite small. It's in a zone B3. It's next to two other B3 buildings. It's a fairly small building. The capacity is for 27 children. I've had someone from licensing out there. It's just hours of operation will be from 7:15 to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday. And I'm not sure, any more specifics you need?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am, Dr. Wilson, I'm sorry.
Do you have, and even for 27 children, do you have 75 square feet where each child will have, that's required by the state?
Oh, yes, that's
So do you have that?
Yes, we have more than enough space inside. And then the playground we will be building, it's quite large as well, so we'll be able to accommodate them with more than sufficient space.
And what about going into the daycare center and coming out? Is that off the street?
No, well, it's off the street, but as you can see from the drawing, the entry point, when you wrap around the building and you come out, I think the capacity for that alone, as per the MPC requirements, will suffice for 60 kids, but my capacity is only for 30 children, so there's more than enough space. There's ample parking there. There's plenty of space.
Off the street pickup and off the street,
yes, ma'am.
Everything?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Are there any other questions? Mr. Stevens, I hear there's a proposed improvement of that intersection with Uri Drive and East Kings Highway.
Yep.
Will this be impacted, this request that she's making, and that particular piece of property be impacted as a result of that reconfiguration of that intersection that you know of?
What I do know is that DODT had looked at this. I talked to Mr. Keith Kendall, and one of the things that they were wanting to do is make sure that there was an ability for a single driveway to be approved here. So that is really the only potential impact as DODT began to look at it. I think at one time there was an indication to be a shared drive, and Mr. Tyndall contacted our office and has been working with them to make sure they can get a single driveway. So that appears that they're taking those considerations into play when they're looking at this site.
Mr. Andrews,
Yes, ma'am.
I submitted 2 sketches. This is the second one with the proposed changes from working with Mr. Tyndall, where we would have our own entry-exit point at 35 feet across. So one is without, one is with.
Just wanted to bring it
Okay,
to everybody's attention. You're
sorry,
doing good. That's good. Mr. Kirkland.
The state, more than a year ago, had acquired all of the necessary right-of-way in that area for those improvements, and supposedly contacted any owners that there might be issues related to their development. So we're not aware of anything that would impede that project, and goodness, I'll believe it when I see it happen, but I was glad to see that they may finally build that improvement, but I will be surprised when I see it.
Any additional questions for this young lady? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Are there any other persons present who would like to speak in favor of this particular development? Anyone else present? Are there persons present who would like to speak in opposition to this request? Anyone opposed to her request? Seeing none, we'll move to case number C2612/P5-12. That's going to be Zeta Residential Facility, LLC.
Good afternoon. I'm Lori Boswell. I'm CEO, Holy Angels Residential Facility located at 10450 Ellerby Road, Shreveport, Louisiana, 71106. I'm here today with Sister Gemma Fulani to represent our mission and those we serve. Because of the commitment made by the Congregation of Our Lady of Sorrows, Holy Angels provides residential and day program services to individuals with developmental and intellectual disabilities. Our proposal today does not seek to expand our licensure for residential care. Our proposal is looking at our 64-acre campus, which is currently zoned RAE, with the exception of one 9-acre plot or tract of land. We are requesting approval to rezone this tract of land from RA to RAE and to incorporate this into the RAE zoning for the entire campus. This lot is shown on the attached map. It's 9 acres and has about 340 feet of frontage on Ellerby Road. In addition to the rezoning of this lot, Holy Angels proposes a conceptual master facility plan that outlines needed upgrades and building replacements that will enhance the beauty of the 64-acre property and will ensure that we maintain the spiritual tranquility of the campus. This will help us to support our mission of loving and compassionate care and to sustain our self-sustaining enterprises. Prior to submitting the request to the MPC, we hosted a neighborhood meeting and unveiled our master facility plan. And we submit this request today with the support of our City Councilman Michael Corbin. So we asked for the approval for the RAE zoning for this tract of land and for the approval of the master facility plan.
All right. Do we have any questions, Mr. Kirk?
Go ahead.
All right.
Oh, you said you hosted a neighborhood meeting. What was the outcome of that?
Yes. We were somewhat disappointed that more people did not attend, but we did have our closest neighbor who lives right across Ellerby Road. They came, and as a matter of fact, she was very, I have a letter of support from her, and she came the next day and signed up as a volunteer and is now volunteering at Holy Angels.
Sometimes when they don't show, that's good too.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
As a request, you mind turning the easel so we can see?
Oh, I'm sorry.
I was going to share that with you. They're not going to be voting. If you want to impress somebody.
I definitely want you to see the hard work we did in putting this together.
Would you care to point out that particular
Yes,
piece that you're talking about?
absolutely. The lot that we're asking for the rezoning is located right in here. It's off of Ellerby Road. And it extends to this area of the property.
All right, thank you. Do we have any more questions? Yes, sir. I'm sorry.
I assume the rooftops that have color, like the pink and orange, that's either the reconstruction or new construction that you're proposing?
Yes, sir. What we would, we have some deferred maintenance issues. Many of our buildings were built in 1965 or 19...
You'll come to the microphone, please, ma'am.
The question was about the colored buildings on the plan, and that is correct. Those that are indicated in color represent replacement buildings. We do have buildings that were built in 1965, 1970, lots of deferred maintenance, and so as we move forward for the next 15 to 20 years, we know that we'll have to replace those buildings. And our goal is to maintain as much green space as possible, so that as we do that, we would demolish buildings on our campus. And we already have, in the past, demolished 2 older buildings and did not replace them.
Okay. Anyone else? Mr. Kirkland?
Just a comment, Ms. Boswell, that over the years, it's really been rewarding to watch this CARE concept unfold. And as you have, and I'm sure others, with the effort, have kept the faith with the neighborhood, I think they have come to trust you and believe in what you do. And I remember the times when there was some real debates about whether this facility would be allowed to continue to evolve. But it is a real credit to our community and to our entire region to have the services that you guys are working to provide.
Thank you so much, and I'm proud that Sister Gemma is here with me today. She's helped make that happen.
All right. Yep. Is there anyone else present who'd like to speak in favor of this particular request? Thank you very much, ma'am. Anyone else care to speak in favor? Are the persons present who would speak in opposition to this request? Anyone in opposition to this request? Ma'am, thank you very much. We will now hear from case number C27-12, Tiger Construction Service of North Louisiana.
I'm Heath Hatfield, 207 Whitetail Private Drive, Stonewall, Louisiana, 71078. We're asking for the rezone of our property from R1 to B2A on the corner of Linwood and McCrary for 2 retail shops and storage.
Any questions for this gentleman? Do you have any idea what the retail shops are going to be?
At this time, no. Maybe one of them, but nothing secure at this point.
Mr. Kirkland?
You requested a variance in that rear yard from 25 to 15 feet, and one of the staff observations is that you really need to describe more fully to the board the buffering, either a higher fence and or plantings of trees and spacings.
Well, we originally met with Mr. Mims. We went in asking for B2. And after speaking with him, we realized we need B2A.
Right.
So that's why our setback was 15 as opposed to 25. We'd like to keep it at 15 if at all possible, and do the 8-foot fence with live oaks every 15 feet for
And what
buffering.
caliper would you think those would be going in?
I'm sorry?
Caliper being diameter,
well,
2-3 inch, or?
We've drawn it as 15-gallon live oaks right now.
That's not a very big tree.
It's not, and that's, we could also go to a Leland cypress, which might be more of a sound buffer, and they're a little.
What about the height of the fence and what material?
It's an 8-foot cedar fence. And,
Cedar?
And the live oaks that we're proposing are around 12 to 15 feet.
Height?
Yes, sir.
And canopy, and what spacing would you?
15 to 20.
Yeah, okay.
Anyone else? Questions? All right, thank you very much. Anyone else would care to speak in favor of this particular request? Anyone else speaking in favor? Are there persons present who would care to speak in opposition to this request? Anyone in opposition? Seeing none, we'll go to case number C28-12, OTI LLC.
John Bivens, representing OTI LLC, 3794 Fountain Blue Road, Keithville, Louisiana, 71047. Subject to your questions.
You know, come on, tell us.
No, I really appreciate you guys. I only have to do this once a year. I don't know how.
And I want to be one of the first ones to say to you that I apologize for beating up on you for the, what did we call that corner? Help me, Miss Mary. It comes from California to turn at the corner of Duella.
Duella and Greenwood?
Yes. Come on, Larry, what do we call it?
Crenshaw.
Crenshaw, that's it.
Crenshaw.
I want to
I was
apologize.
trying to think of that the other
All
day.
right, I want to apologize for beating up on you about Crenshaw, and ever since you put your business there, I've deliberately turned and just to see, and it appears it's working well for you. Am I correct?
Yeah, it's a good location, and I've had no problem with the neighborhood whatsoever. It's
Very good.
People are very nice there, just like everywhere.
Well, I thank you for the one on Pines Road. Is it, Miss Mary, you have a comment?
No, I just remember, I'm just saying, I'm surprised you remember back that far. You ever, not to say that you're old.
No, it's okay.
I do remember that.
I won't be grown until next year, Miss Mary. I'll be 65
Well, just so
next
we
year.
can go farther back than that, I just want everybody to know that the plants I originally planted at North Market are the same ones. They're
I
still
was
alive.
just about to
doing
say,
well.
yeah, okay.
Good.
They are.
All right. Any questions for this gentleman?
Mr. Chairman, just
Yes, sir.
want to say, you have really done a good job. You had to convince us coming in, as you well remember, but you've done a good job with bringing lower ice prices to Shreveport and North Louisiana. So, but we appreciate the quality of work and the way you maintain your properties. It's good to see a success like yourself in our community.
Thank you, appreciate that. I think the board's been good in their guidance. Sometimes I thought it was a little harsh, but some of it was great tips. Your suggestion to have the metal parapet on top of the machine was one that I've used ever since the very first one. So,
Good.
That's good.
good advice.
Very good.
Any questions for this gentleman? I only wish I owned one of them. I think I told you that the first time we talked about
Better
it.
come up with that.
All right, thank you, sir. Are there other persons present who'd like to speak in favor of this particular request? Are there persons present who'd like to speak in opposition to this gentleman's request? Anyone opposed to this request? Seeing none, we'll go to case number 11. Item number 11, case number C29-12. Miss Corey Phillips and Deborah W. Phillips.
Tell her to do some calisthenics for us. Kids got back from therapy.
Hello, my name is Kai Grain. I live at 107 Merrick Street, 71104 Shreveport, Louisiana. Just speaking for Lovely Bodies Health and Fitness LLC. Basically, all we're trying to do is add another 1,000 square feet to our facility so that we can better help the community and just Shreveport as a whole, trying to impact these obesity rates, pretty much.
Any questions for this tall, strapping young man?
Comment.
Comment, Dr. Wilson.
When we first went out there and checked, we asked around about the gym and all of this. Then all of a sudden, one young man just came out of another building down a little bit from it. And we were sitting there talking, we wasn't talking to him. And we said something about the gym and all. Anybody, he went to talking to himself, anybody would look around here, they know we need a gym, 2 or 3 gyms. So that sold us on it, that the community really does want it.
Yeah, we have probably about half the people that are in our current classes.
That's kind of good. It's good that people are going to the gym too, and they do need it in that area.
Help me jog my memory. I've forgotten which way I went, but is this next to the barber shop or is this
Directly beside us.
right next door to the barber shop?
Right next door to it.
Work out good haircut.
All right. I understand there's some classes for ladies there who are.
Currently, every class is
for ladies.
Yeah, every class that we currently have.
You don't have any questions for me?
But I think you're speaking of the pole fitness class that we have.
Go right ahead.
Yeah, like I said before, every class we have right now is pretty much tailored towards women. Those are the people who, you know what I'm saying, are just mostly
Careful.
What would I say?
Careful, careful. Choose your words careful.
Yeah, they're the ones that basically need the most help and the ones that are the most willing to, you know what I'm saying, basically receive help from us. But yeah, we do have a pole dancing class that's 8:30 all week. And Taylor back there, she's our pole dance instructor. We keep everything real professional, and it's you know, more of a workout than a lot of people would think, even for, you know, guys. But I doubt any guys will try to do it.
Vivian said you can't be an assistant.
I mentioned it to my wife already. I've already told her there's a pole dancing class right next door to the barbershop. All right.
Quick question.
Yes, sir.
Did you used to work at Best Buy?
Yeah.
I thought I recognized you.
Okay.
Very smart gentleman too, with computers.
Any other questions relative to this request?
I'll audit the pole dancing class.
See how your
Yes, ma'am.
reputation.
Tell Vivian I picked.
See how your reputation.
I'll be glad. All right, thank you, young man. Anybody else here care to speak in favor of this particular gym?
That was a good lesson for all of you back there.
Good afternoon. My name is Shalette Holden. My address is 6104 Doncaster Drive in Shreveport. I just want to commend the effort of these gentlemen because I work out at the facility, don't do the pole dance, but I do the workout, and I've lost 15 pounds since March 1st. And so I know with the emphasis that the First Lady has put on physical fitness and health, I think it's a great addition to the community, and it's a big help to all of us who work out there.
You just go in there. All right.
Yeah, this is my daughter. I'm really proud of her. She's a college graduated from Northwestern State University, and also she found her passion in living a healthy lifestyle and helping me live a healthy lifestyle. And so she's lost about 20 pounds, but it's a wonderful facility.
All right. I got one question. One question for you guys is, do you have a good relationship with the barbershop next door?
I believe that we do. Yeah.
That's all right.
We've had some people that come over from there and come see what we're doing, and it's a great place.
So parking is worked out, y'all not having any problems with that?
No problem.
Very good.
Y'all should come work out. They have a great box fitness. And Corey lost 110 pounds.
Oh, really? All right. Who's Corey? Stand up, Corey.
Stand up, Corey.
Thank you very much. All right. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Are there any other persons present who care to speak in favor of this request? Is there anyone present who'd like to speak in opposition to this request? Anyone opposed to the request? Obviously, you're getting along well with the barbershop, or somebody would be here. All right, we'll move on to the next case. Case number T30-12, AutoZone INC.
Good afternoon, board members. My name is Curtis Sigler, and I'm with AutoZone. The address is 123 South Front Street, Memphis, Tennessee. I'm the regional project manager for the development department for AutoZone. We are proposing to do an addition on our existing store at the address of 2760 West 70th Street. There at Canal Boulevard, which is in the Southgate Shopping Center. To the east of us is the Rite Aid. If you look where Ms. Ione just shaded, the portion in front of that is the existing store, which is approximately 8,095 square feet. We're proposing to do the 6,689 square feet there to the rear of the building for a total of 14,784. going through development, going through the MPC, we meet all building setbacks. We did have to add parking towards the rear of the space to meet parking requirements, as well as green space, detention area, and landscaping. At this point in time, what the addition is primarily for is for what we call our hard parts. We're adding additional hard part space, and that's your larger parts like your mufflers, your starters. It's just your larger parts. It's not the accessories where a customer would typically shop. This will provide more parts for this store, as well as we will provide a service to our other stores and community businesses as well, where we can deliver these parts to them. So this is a service that we are branching out into, and it'll help, again, provide the right parts to the right store at the right time for our customers. Again, we have went through engineering, planning, building department, and at this time we have all approvals minus the MPC. So at this time, unless there's other questions, we would ask for a recommendation for approval.
I have a comment.
Any questions for this gentleman?
I have a comment.
Dr. Wilson?
Landscaping. That's all I need to say. There's not enough landscaping on here.
Actually, here's the retention pond. They did a bunch of landscaping in the retention pond, and they did it all around here.
It just didn't show, and I'm sorry. That's all I was going by.
I wanted to show the elevation. Basically, you can see here at the back of the store is the addition that we're doing. And you can see here from the front of the store, from the black stripe down, that's what's existing. You can see the bump up from the front. Really is all that you see. From the road. And here's the landscaping. As I mentioned, we provided the shrub and the parking as well as interior as well. As well as side.
All right.
Any other questions? For some reason, when I hear you describe what you're going to do, the word determined distribution center kind of comes to my mind.
It does. We consider this a hub, but it's not a distribution center because we're not bringing in 18-wheelers and taking them to other stores. We're just using our same commercial pickup trucks. So again, we have rounds that we will take to our other stores and take to, the other stores. And like I said, it's not a mass delivery. It's, getting that right part to the right stores. If a customer orders one, we can get it to them that afternoon.
Is this something that's kind of new for your company, or do you have one in other parts of the city?
We've been doing this for some time now, but it's branching out and it's getting bigger. It's something that we're kind of taking a lead on, being in the automotive industry, and again, we're wanting to provide to even some of the local shops that'll buy parts where we can deliver it to them as well.
All right, sir. Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Sir.
Anyone else care to speak in favor of this request? Anyone else care to speak in favor? Are there persons present who would like to speak in opposition to the AutoZone request? Anyone opposed to the AutoZone request? Hearing none, then we'll go on to the next request on the item on the agenda. Case number C31-12, Rayleigh and Associates. I know she's in here because I saw her. Did I see Miss? I just lost my name. There she is.
Well, she's supposed to.
Joyce there.
I'm sorry. I'm jumping the gun. I apologize.
The applicant, Mr. Chairman.
We're waiting on the applicant.
The applicant is who I'm looking for.
Engineering.
Applicant is here.
And the gentleman from the store has been calling me for the last few days, asking me, were they okay? Have they had any opposition? And I got the impression they were really coming down.
Well, they need to be here.
Yes. Oh, okay. Good.
He's jumping.
There he is.
Yes.
Amen.
Oh. Oh, he's right. Oh, I'm sorry, I got ahead of myself.
Okay.
Same thing I did.
Yes, yes, sorry. No, this.
Not me, right?
So
No,
we still don't have a warm body yet. Am I correct? We're on case number C 31-12.
this is the dollar store, but this is the well, no, this is the first. Ma'am.
3112.
We're on the site plan. This is the site plan. We're on site plan
Yeah,
approval.
this is you. Yeah, it just has Rayleigh and Associates.
Yeah,
The other
that's
one.
really been good.
He almost lost that toe, man.
ID, what's going on? Is he gonna present this?
Yes, yes.
Is he with Rayleigh?
No, he's with the dollar store.
Okay.
That's what's when it says Rayleigh and Sons, didn't recognize it, and then I got confused. I was thinking that was a subdivision case, but it's not. It's.
My name is Bob Gage. I'm with GBT Realty out of Nashville, Tennessee, and I am here to request a site plan approval for a Dollar General. And that location of that is the south side of Jefferson Page Street, 0.07 miles west of Pines Road. It is currently zoned B3. We are requesting a site plan approval on a 9,100 square foot Dollar General. We are meeting all setback requirements. We are meeting the parking requirements of 45. We're meeting all the landscape requirements. We have submitted plans that have been reviewed. I believe that we are down to the site plan approval process. I did bring a few photographs of, Dollar General does have a new business model. I know there's a stigma to the Dollar Generals. They've been around for 30 years. Some of the older stores are quite small. They do have quite a bit of product crammed into these small stores. What they're doing now is going to the 9,000 square foot facilities, and they are basically stocking them with 9,000 square foot worth of merchandise instead of trying to overstock the stores. And they have a very big emphasis these days on cleanliness. They do put their managers through a pretty rigid training program to keep the stores clean. They currently have 10,000 stores in operation today, and they do a large amount of research on those existing stores to try to figure out how to get more customers in the store. Number one thing is to keep the stores clean. I brought a couple photographs of the store that we just finished. Show you, just give you an idea of what the interior of the stores look like. They are very much different from the existing ones that I'm sure you've seen around the area. Very bright, wide aisles, very clean. And basically it. We do propose just to put up a prototypical building. It's a 9,100 square feet. I have a photograph in front of that. This is what the front of the building will look like. I believe that's it. Don't need any variances. Just a site plan approval. Any questions?
All right, before we go any further, if you don't mind, repeat your name and address for our record, please.
Yes, my name is Bob Gage. I'm with GBT Realty out of Nashville, Tennessee.
And the address?
The street address, it's 9010 Overlook Boulevard.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions for this gentleman? Yes, ma'am.
I have one.
Yes, ma'am.
Dr. Wilson and I, we was out there and looking at the lot. It was just so small. You're stressing about keeping Dollar General clean.
Yes, ma'am.
And I know I'm speaking for myself. When I go in, they're all cluttered up. You can't get through the house, not clean at all. But on the Jefferson Page Road, and I'm just thinking about my neighborhood, definitely would not want, and I know you're here for a site plan, want 3 Dollar Generals or dollar stores on one street.
There is an existing Family Dollar across the street to the north side of Jefferson Page.
Right.
Now,
I was there Sunday and could not believe, from observation, what I observed going down the Jefferson Page Road.
As far as the number
of stores.
Exactly.
Right. They do a massive amount of research on the areas that they want to go into. This area, the research has come back that it will support Family Dollar and the Dollar General, and they actually do this on a number of occasions. We personally, as our company, we have built Dollar Generals in half a dozen locations in the past 12 months across the street from a Family Dollar. They coexist fine. They basically they base their research and their approvals on these sites, not on if one of the other stores goes out of business. They base it on what it can do with the store in existence. All the numbers come back that it will support both stores.
What about your landscaping?
Yes, ma'am.
Just looking at that picture there.
There's landscaping. This actually is just an existing
Picture.
store. It's not even in the state. It's,
Okay.
that was in Wichita, Kansas. But that's a prototypical Dollar General. I just brought that so you can see what the front looked like. On the screen is the landscape plan that we have proposed, and we do meet the landscape requirements. All of the shaded area that you see around the parking lot, that it's all sodded grass, and it's all irrigated. We will have irrigation there so that the grass will grow and maintain, it won't die out in a couple months. We are proposing shrubs across the front of the property. There's a, let's see, 2, 4, 5, we've got 5 trees we're proposing. The shrubs across the front are, I'm going to be honest with you, I don't know what size those are. They look like lower shrubs, though. We try not to hide the front of the store. But we are meeting all the local requirements as far as landscaping is concerned. And,
May I say something?
Dr. Wilson.
I know it's several, but I'm talking about 2 recently built Dollar Generals and dog stores, so far as that's concerned. They say they're gonna have landscaping and they say it's gonna be this way, but they all look alike once they get built in your neighborhood. And there is no landscaping. The one that you put on Martin Luther King Road?
I haven't built any here yet.
Need to go look. Okay. Nothing is in front of there but a bunch of carts and things like that. And the one on Jewella is a much larger store, no landscaping. And it begins to me to degrade the thinking of what they think the people are like in those neighborhoods. Because once you start putting stores in neighborhoods and they all carry the same things, some Tide, some Fab, some this, and expect that that's what the people want. And that's what the people are going, the clothes in there, what the people are going to wear. You degrade, you give a different thinking to the kind of folk who live in those neighborhoods. And I really thought the one on Jewella was going to be fancy. But it's just like the rest of them, it's just a little larger. And I think once they build them, they're through with it.
Well, our deals with Dollar General are a little bit different. I'm not actually affiliated with them. I just build their stores and I lease them back to them. And I do currently have a 15-year lease in place for this store with 3 5-year options. So we're looking at 30 years is what we're shooting for. But the deals that I make with Dollar Generals they're what you call a triple net deal. In a lot of the other developers that work for Dollar General, they either do single net or double net, meaning that the landlord, me, would be responsible for upkeep of the building and upkeep of the landscaping. The deals that I make with Dollar General they're triple net deals, which means that Dollar General is responsible for landscaping, parking lot, building, all the mechanicals of the building. They are responsible for that, and they sign a 15-year lease saying that they are going to keep up with all the maintenance, maintain all the landscaping, maintain all the parking facilities. If they don't, they're in default of the lease, and it costs them money. We have, to date, we've been working with Dollar General for 30 months now. We have built 215 of these in 17 states. And they have, to date, kept up their end of the bargain. They have maintained all their stores. They have maintained all their landscaping. That's why we sprinkle them, because we know that the managers won't go out and water the grass. That's why we put irrigation into these lots, so they'll be self-maintenance. We haven't had a problem with them to this point. Now, the other stores that you're referring to in town, we're not affiliated with that. We haven't built any in Shreveport yet. This is our first one. We do plan on building more here, but this is our first one, and if you let me get through and let me build this, I'll show you it's different than the others.
We've got another question. I'm going to go to Ms. Mary.
I do, and I
The
know-
question I had before you go is, will you be sharing the same driveway with the supermarket that's there?
We will come off the drive, as you can see on, yes. So we do come off of Jefferson Page at the entrance of the drive for the supermarket, and then it peels off to the west.
Ms. Ruffin?
I know you guys said that you did research, so do you know about the Dollar General that was on Greenwood Road that shut down and it was a vacant building for 3 or 4 years?
That's, I don't have any affiliation with
Okay.
any of the other Dollar Generals.
And you know, I figured that, but I thought maybe since you guys did research.
Well,
you
it's
would
not actually,
know.
it's not actually me that does the research. Dollar General does the research, and they tell me where they want to go.
Okay.
We go out and buy the property and build
And
it.
that's fine. And I think I'm going to make some people in the audience upset, and I think I'm going to make some people on the board upset when I say this. It is in my area, and I don't want it. That's my personal opinion. But even if I don't want it, I do realize that it's Zone B3 and you have a right to it. So that's what I mean. My neighbors might get angry of my decision, but the decision has been made long before I got on this board to zone that B3. But it's in my area and I don't want you there. And I'm not going to support you.
Can
So
I
I'm
ask
just
you why?
Pardon me?
Why don't you?
I don't want a Dollar General in my store. We have one already. That is enough. And you know, to me, this is me, not the board, not anybody else. You guys always coming, putting these Dollar Generals and dollar stores sticking in black communities. We can go to Dillard's. We can go to all these other places too. I don't have to go to the dollar store. I can go to Walmart.
I really
Target.
don't think it's a black community issue. I really don't.
I didn't say, I told you it was mine. This is my opinion.
Yes, ma'am. I'm
Not
just trying to
yeah.
explain. I don't have any control over the locations they
I
they tell
understand,
me
and
that
I
they want.
understand that. I understand that. You told us. They did research and they said.
And they
that
said,
this-
this is
yeah.
where we want to be, and this is where I
But
go.
I'm just telling you my opinion. But you have a right to it. You have a right.
Thank you.
Do we have any more questions for this gentleman?
Chairman.
Mr. Kirkman?
One of the things the board can take into account in approval or denial of a site plan is the architectural style and how well you have designed a building and a set of improvements that will fit into the area that it's proposed for. It appears from your drawings that it's prototypical, sterile, almost as unattractive as it can get. And I'm not supporting Ms. Ruffin's position, that's her position. But what I am telling you is that we've seen some really good models, like we have others that come to town and they bill for Walgreens and they lease back to them. It's a common practice in the business. However, what most of those other builder, investor, developer teams have done, and I'll give you several of the Walgreens I know that we worked with, did beautiful jobs of adapting buildings, landscaping, exceptional design, open. For example, if you research this neighborhood, you know that it's low crime. But you've got a concrete block wall with no windows, no glass. Now that may fit your model, but you could do a lot to improve your building design and attractiveness of what's going in there. And I don't know that that would gain the support that you need from the board, but your model leaves a lot to be desired looking at that. If that's what you think is an attractive building, it does look like it would belong in a really low-income neighborhood.
It does.
Well, I can
And I'm
tell
just
you-
telling you experience that we relate to in our market, which is about 300 square miles. So have you got any other building designs or concepts that are better than this?
Absolutely. I can tell you where this all comes from. This is Dollar General's prototype. This is the building they tell me to build. This is the building that they want me to build. This is the same building that they have 10,000 of these across the country. Now, there are some with different variations depending on the communities that we go into and what their requirements are. The way that this process typically works is we will research the local ordinances. If there are required upgrades to the building, we apply those to the building. If there are no required upgrades, the prototype building is what we propose.
Gotcha.
There are no required upgrades here.
I'm just giving you a good understanding of what the board can consider.
Yes,
It's not just if you meet the setbacks and the parking requirements, it also has to do with the overall concept, and architectural materials factor into that.
Now, I can tell you that that prototype building, from this photograph, all you can see is the front of the store. The other three sides it's a metal building. The other three sides are metal panels.
Why would you choose not to show any landscaping that would dramatically soften that building?
That photograph is not intended to show a landscape site.
I understand that, but you're trying to convince a board that they ought to approve a site plan.
My understanding was there wasn't any opposition to this project, and this was, we've met all the requirements, and this really wasn't a big issue. There wouldn't be a whole lot of opposition. We can soften this up. There are options. We do have some playing room within the budget. Now, I don't have a great deal, but I do have enough room to brick the entire building, if that's what it would take to get it done. I do have some wiggle room. I can put more landscaping in. Like I said, this is what Dollar General directs us to build. If there are local requirements, we are more than willing to look at.
Well, an example, if you have that opportunity, I think it was at Olive and Centenary, we had a type of store like this. I don't recall exactly what the name was, but it was, and they worked with the Highland neighborhood, and they came up with a design, brick facade, signage, landscaping, a number of things that, where the dumpsters were, and a lot of things that really fit the home or fit the business into the home area.
Understand.
And again, that's, I don't know what the board's going to do with this, but just trying to give you some advice.
I'd be more than happy to have a neighborhood meeting.
And
I do know that there is B3 on all three sides of me, though, so I'm not sure how far the neighborhood actually gets to this site. But yeah, I'd be more than happy to have a meeting with the neighborhood, sit down and discuss alternatives.
I just have one.
Just a second, Mr. Allen?
If you don't mind, Ms. Walker.
I'm sorry, Mr.
No.
Paul.
And something you said just caught my attention. You said that there are other prototypes. You just probably brought the least involved prototype for this application.
Actually, the other prototypes are just different sizes.
So you don't have a different facade?
No, sir. It's a 9,000, a 10,000, and a 12,000 square feet. They all look exactly the same.
But you do have the capability of changing.
Absolutely.
That facade. Since if you get into this hearing and you hear strong opposition because, number one, of the facade, the aesthetically displeasing appearance of your buildings, beside other negative things that may unfairly be associated with Dollar General.
Yes.
But you do have a better landscaping plan that you could possibly.
I don't have one with me, but I can absolutely redo one.
If you get given an opportunity,
yes, sir,
you can provide in the future, if there was a deferral or something, you could come back with a much better facade for a building, much better landscaping plan, and just an overall better look for your building.
I can absolutely go back, rework our landscaping plan, add more bushes, trees. It sounds like that's what we're after. As far as the facade on the building, I do have a limited budget. This is a dollar store. There is a certain amount of things that I can do. You know, I can't go in and put a hipped roof on it or something like that. But yes, I can soften that building up, and I would absolutely do that if given the opportunity.
Ms. Rutt?
My question is since GBT Realty has done many of these stores, you said all over the country.
17 states.
Okay, 17 states.
Yes, ma'am.
And you might not know the answer to this, but what is the life of these stores? I mean, do they come in and do 5 years and make $10 billion off of it and then leave the building, or your lease a lot longer? I mean,
our leases are for 15 years.
15. Do they stay 15 years?
Yes, I've got a signed lease in my hand for 15 years for this project, with 3 5-year options. The anticipation is they will be here 30 years.
Okay, 15 years, and if they do not get the revenue or to stay in business, they break the lease. Is that what you're saying?
No,
if they find out that they cannot stay in that community for 5 years and stay out the red, do they then break your lease
They haven't yet. They do have.
No, I'm just asking, anybody, any other company, any other state, anywhere else have?
No.
So usually they typically stay there 15
They
years.
stay with their 15-year lease. Now, if they're in extreme circumstances, I'm sure that they would come back and request that we would let them sublease it out to another retail. But if they did that, they'd have to come back in front of you to get that approved. But that hasn't happened. They're very, very strong.
So you guys have Dollar Generals who have stayed in business over 15 years.
Oh, yeah, Dollar General's been in business since.
No, I'm talking about we're talking about your
I've only
company.
been
You know
working with
it.
them for 30 months.
Pardon me?
I've only been working with them for 30 months. Okay. I don't have anything that's 5 years old yet.
That's the answer.
That's
Okay.
Mr. Ferdinand?
Yeah, and this is the Charles and Dara, now that we're rolling out a master plan. I think it's fairly common practice that subdivisions, architecture of different buildings going in around subdivision, it has to blend in. Even Walmart, I've read several articles, even Walmart, they got their scale down Walmart, but it all depends where they place that Walmart.
And Larry,
It will
that
blend
Tree
in.
City, that Walmart
Yeah.
did what you're saying.
Right, see, so it's kind of common practice that it's in other words, they got all kind of precedents.
Right.
And I think if we're going to, really implement a master plan, even fine tune it, because when we get to talk about overall ordinance, I personally want to look at manufactured home, where they going in, I have an issue with that, but that's not for this meeting. But I think it's very common that when different buildings go, that they're mandated to blend in with the architectural design of the neighborhood. If not, in close proximity, okay? So it's nothing unique.
That's right.
And actually, Brookshire's is a beautiful, so to be right next to Brookshire, to me, Brookshire's is just absolutely a very nice grocery store right there. And you're gonna blend in right next to Brookshire's with a metal building with just brick in the front of it.
Yes, ma'am.
So to me, that just doesn't look well in that community.
Ms. Smith?
Yes, and they're stated some of the same things that I wanted to state, but are you willing to meet with the neighborhood association
Absolutely.
and get their input?
Yes.
Sounds great.
Anybody else? One other issue that's not been thrown up on the table, and I throw it up on the table primarily because I go through that intersection quite often. And I'm just going to be perfectly frank with you. I live closer to that intersection than anybody sitting up here.
Okay.
And there is no turn lane at that intersection going west on Jefferson Page Road to turn either north or south on Pines Road. And at 5 o'clock in the evening, the traffic coming east on Jefferson Page Road will back up and block that driveway going into Brookshire.
Now, that is true.
Okay.
It's a safety factor. That's the first thing I want to throw up on the table. And then the others have mentioned about the aesthetic appearance of the building. You'll have brick on the front. When you pull into the Brookshire Supermarket and look back north, the first thing you'll see is that aluminum wall that you're talking about. If you're driving east on Jefferson Page Road and you're sitting at the intersection, the facade is facing east, which means you look out the window of your car, you're looking at aluminum siding on the north side of that building.
That's right.
And if you're coming up from the west side, you're looking at the back side of it.
That's right.
So
You are
it's
correct.
just, when these people are talking about aesthetic appearance for that intersection, that's what they're talking
No, I
about.
understand. I
And
understand.
yours is perhaps the third or fourth dollar store within the last 24 months that has aspired to be established on that particular intersection.
Third one. I've heard the stories.
Very good, then you've done your homework.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
one other observation, and not trying to beat up on you, but
Correct.
trying to give you some information that may help you. Signage is another big deal. If the whole front facade isn't dominated by a huge sign, but basically something more tasteful, and again, that Centenary and Olive Street dollar-type store, they went to a low-profile, I think it was monument sign, Alan, and it softened the whole appearance of the store, and it fit better. But so signage was the only thing we haven't mentioned, but certainly you can do a lot better than that.
Well, I have nothing to do with it.
I understand that the store,
Now, I can put it to Dollar General and ask them what they want to do with that, but I'm going to tell you, there's another company that'll come in and permit the signs for this building. I have nothing to do with it.
I know, but-
They're going to ask you for the biggest thing that they can get.
you're in the business to build a building and lease to them.
That's right.
And if they want this location, and if the board says, we want something better, that's what they'll have to do if they want to go there.
Understood.
So,
And quite frankly, we have researched your ordinances and all of your rules and regulations extensively before coming to town. I feel like we've met everything that you have on the books.
well, the guy over in Centenary, the site I'm describing, he was out of Arkansas, whoever the investor manager was, and he said, like, no, they'll never build that with a small sign like that. Well, guess what? It's over there with a small sign, and it looks really good.
Okay. Well,
But
they
he
do
said,
have-
oh, it's against our prototype and everything.
They do have two prototypical signs. One's a pole sign, one's a monument sign. So they'll go
Right.
either direction in that.
Monument would be great,
As far as that sign right there,
not that
that's what they're
sign.
going to ask for.
Gotcha.
It is.
All right, sir, you're bleeding out of both ends.
I am. But just so you know, GBT, we really do want to be good neighbors. We really do. We're here for the long haul. We anticipate being here for 30 years. We want to do everything that we can to appease everybody. We want this to be a win-win for every party concerned. I'm more than happy to work with the community groups, try to go back and soften the building up. I think I understand what you want, and I'll do my best to get there.
Thank you very much, sir.
Sir,
Thank you, sir.
Is there anyone else present who are in favor of this request? Is there anyone else in favor of this request? Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
We will now yield the microphone to any opposition to this request.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name is Joyce Lawrence. I am the president of the West Shreveport Alliance. I am here today representing 6 neighborhood associations, and I do appreciate you guys entertaining the gentleman who wants to do the dollar store. I'm going to say, first of all, that some of our community folks and the presidents of the individual organizations couldn't be here because of work commitments. But the one thing that I want to say, in all fairness to the gentleman, I try to look at this from both sides. I've worked in workforce development, and I've done work and research for the Small Business Development Center in my former life when I worked. I'm now retired, and I'm trying to enjoy my community. I'm trying to enjoy the value of the $250,000 that I sunk into building my house. The first thing that I want to say is I don't want another dollar store in my neighborhood. I'm going to preface that by saying I'm a little disappointed that we don't have a little bit more in our master plan around the communities that exist in terms of what you look at when you're actually reviewing plans for sites. The gentleman does have a right to build what he wants to build. He does not have the right to bring in any business that is going to degrade my community, disrupt the culture and the value and the diversity that we have in our community. Now, having said that, I want to read a letter into the record that I wrote after much thought and thinking about whether, even after I polled the community associations, should we oppose this? Should we agree with it? We're going to come out looking like maybe we're anti-business. We're not anti-business. We simply want the businesses to come to the community and put something in our community that we want. We spent 5 months in 2009 coming up with that vision of what we wanted in West Shreveport. There's been a lot of things said that sort of depict the stereotypes associated with dollar stores. But let me just go into what I really want to address, because I'm really concerned that the planning staff wrote the considerations in the agenda item for this particular item as it did. So let me say, the neighbors and communities in West Shreveport corridor have in the past come before the Planning Commission to express concerns and oppose the placement of dollar stores in our community. And again, we cannot agree with the site proposal. These concerns are grounded in the high density of dollar stores in our community already, including across Shreveport, and the long-term viability of such businesses that are not constructed with brick and mortar. First, in the considerations, the plan, the request says that 50% of all new development occur inside the loop. I know that was in the master plan, and I guess the citation of such a generic catch-all to justify yet another dollar store is vague and provides no basis for any citizen across our city or in our neighborhoods to know or understand how such a boundless phrase captures and reports new development in the area and throughout the city. It would be helpful to know how these developments are tracked and how they are weighted among city and communities. First of all, if you go to the Family Dollar Store website, click Find Store Locator, there are 28 Family Dollar stores already in the city of Shreveport, primarily in majority African American communities. If you go to the Dollar General website, click Store Locator, you will find that there are 19 of those other stores already in the city of Shreveport. If you also go and click our zip code, you find that we already have $5 stores within a 2-mile radius of Pines Road and Jefferson. It is not a good fit. It does not add value, or it does not even preserve the community. The second thing in the master plan considerations, you say that the future land use designation is rural enterprise. The designation of land use as rural enterprise or rural in any form is contrary to the federal designation of rural. The U.S. Census Bureau, the USDA's Economic Research Service, and the Office of Management and Budget have come together to help define rural areas. Per the United States Census, the definition, which are based on population density, defines rural areas as all territory outside a Census Bureau-defined urban area. The last time I checked, Shreveport in the 2010 census was defined as an urban area. This corner where they're proposing to put this property is in a defined urban area, the city of Shreveport. The USDA's Office of Rural Development defines rural by various population thresholds. Public Law 107, 171, Section 20, Section 6020 define rural and rural areas as any area other than a city or town that has a population greater than 50,000 inhabitants, and that the urbanized areas and contingents and adjacent to a such town. The U.S. Department of Justice, in an April 15 report of the Attorney General to the U.S. Congress, states that a rural area is defined as a census block group with a density less than 500 people per square mile. Thus, a designation in the request is that this is a rural development where this is going. It's clearly, in my mind, and what I could find on what rural means, not appropriate, because this site is within the city limits.